Hey Internet, Eric here. Tonight's movie thought is, in my opinion, a classic in the sci-fi horror genre. Um, Wonderful date movie. Um, Tonight I'm talking about David Cronenberg's The Fly, starring Jeff Goldblum and Geena Davis, and the only other actor who should get any recognition is John Getz. Came out in '86. Directed by David Cronenberg. Now, this is a remake of a Vincent Price movie, which I've never seen. That Vincent Price movie is also considered a classic. It's it's a movie staple with the whole "help me" scene, with the fly with the human head being eaten by the spider. But this, wow, I hadn't seen this movie in probably 10 years, and I remember so much of it, and it still holds up today. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I do give minor plot spoilers to somewhat major plot spoilers, depending on the film. That's just like how I discuss films. So if you haven't seen David Cronenberg's The Fly from 1986, where the hell have you been? Anyways, Jeff Goldblum plays Seth Brundle, and Seth Brundle is a scientist, and he meets Geena Davis, who is a journalist. Says he's created something that will change the world, and she's desperate for a story, so she says, fuck it, why not? I go. Goes to his little apartment, and you can tell that Jeff Goldblum is kind of like, I don't know if he's an introvert, but he lives in his apartment. You can tell he never gets out much. And he shows her these little pods right here. And he has created teleportation. And he says it'll change the world because it really will. So he tests it out on her stocking, her stocking on her leg. And he shows her how it teleports from one to another, one telepod to another. And eventually he wants to test it on other things. He eventually tested it on a baboon, which doesn't go out very well. And he finally gets enough gumption to test it on himself. As he tests it on himself, he is successful in transporting from one pod to another, but a housefly has also gotten into the pod with him, and their DNA has merged. So Seth is now becoming some sort of man-fly hybrid, and basically the rest of the film is watching his descent into becoming this disgusting creature. Geena Davis, they have a relationship. Eventually, it's Geena Davis watching him fall apart and change, and trying to help him survive in a way. And also there is John Getz, who plays Geena Davis's ex, who still cares about her, and he wants to protect her from Seth. That's a basic plot. Wow. Now, first off, I don't really know a lot of Cronenberg stuff. I've seen him more as an actor in Nightbreed and Jason X than I've seen his films. But he is known as, when it comes to horror, he is known as, a master of body horror, which is basically horror dealing with the body. Transformation, stuff like that. I guess Videodrome is supposedly really disgusting. The Brood, Rabid. But we're talking The Fly, and, man, we'll get to Cronenberg, we'll get to the body horror transformation stuff in a second. First off, I want to talk about Jeff Goldblum. Now, Goldblum's always typecast. He always plays a fucking scientist. Be it here, or the Jurassic Park films, or even fucking Cats and Dogs. He's always a fucking scientist. He's always got his little quirkiness. Here, he's very, very likable. You see how passionate he is about his project, how he wants to make this work, how you see his love for Geena Davis's character. I guess they were dating at the time, so it came pretty natural. And what I love is his descent into madness. When he's a 100% likable guy in the beginning, um, and then when he finally gets merged with the Fly, it's a slow transformation. But you see Goldblum's performance shine after the transformation happens. His speed or his speak speeds up, and he kind of jitters a lot. He gets addicted to like ice cream, and putting sugar in his cappuccino and stuff like that. He starts getting ripped, like muscular. He starts getting stronger. Sex drive is up. All that stuff. So he goes from mild mannered dork, I guess, scientist, to this totally different character, and then suddenly when we see him eventually start to mutate more and more, you know, his face deforms and his whole body deforms. He is covered from head to toe in this latex bodysuit and this disgusting but wonderful makeup, and he acts right through it. You can see, he acts with his eyes. He acts with, his mouth and just his little twitches and movements and stuff like that. Performance is fantastic. And he's also very sympathetic. There's a scene where right before he morphs into his final form, but it's before, I don't know, maybe this is like metamorphosis stage number 3. He's walking around on like crutches. And like his skin is sagging, boils and mucus and everything everywhere. And you see how scared he is. At first, when he knows he's mutating, he thinks it's cool. He can walk on the walls. He's got, super strength. Because how strong flies are compared to their body size. But then he realizes it's like a form of cancer, it looks like, and he's falling apart. There's this disgusting scene where he's looking in the bathroom mirror, and I still fucking cringe to this day, where he peels off his fingernails, pulls his teeth out, and he squirts some fluid onto the mirror. It's a cringeworthy, disgusting scene. But after that, he mutates even more, and he knows that he's dying, and Geena Davis is right there in front of him, and he looks at her and he tries to scratch his ear, and his fucking ear falls off. And he's terrified, and he starts crying. He doesn't know what to do. It's a powerful scene. It's very sad. So he knows that he's fucked. And the rest of the film, he's trying to cure himself. But Goldblum's performance is fantastic. I love the scene where he's already started to mutate, and he's walking over the walls, and he's just talking to Geena Davis, and he lifts up his shirt, and he says, "What's this bump here?" "I don't know. Maybe we'll find out." So he goes from the character arc. He goes from nerd to proud that he's got this to work to, like I said, he changes, with, the energy, and then when he starts to mutate, he becomes, sympathetic, and then by the end, he's obsessed with trying to cure himself. It's a fantastic performance by Jeff Goldblum. Geena Davis is really likable here. She starts off, when she first meets Jeff Goldblum, she doesn't believe any of his shit. She thinks he's full of shit, and then she gets so interested in learning his story, with the teleportation, and then she falls in love with him, and it's very believable because, like I said, they were a couple at the time, and then she sees the metamorphosis of him, his body shutting down, his body falling apart, mutating. And it's like, you can compare it to maybe someone watching their loved one die of cancer. And you see her heart breaking. It's never over the top acting. The scene, like I said, when his ear falls off, instead of her being disgusted, she's more shocked. But then she's worried about him. She embraces him and they cry together. And it's emotional. This actually is a love story. Behind all the gore and the gook and all this shit, it's a love story between Goldblum and Geena Davis, and it's great. The The only other actor is John Getz. Like I said, he plays Geena Davis's ex, and they have the tension. The tension between them are really great. You know, she comes home and they've already broken up, and he's like already in her shower, showering because he still had the key. So they have that great tension. But then at the end, when he needs to rescue Geena Davis from Seth, he's determined to save her, even if it'll cost him his life. So great performances. Fantastic score, very subtle in parts, especially at the end. That score at the end is fantastic. The special effects are really cool. Like, I'll talk about the practical effects, like the makeup and shit like that in a second. But like when Goldblum is finally getting the power to walk on the walls, and you see him like crawling on the ceiling, and then he jumps to the wall and climbs down and stuff like that. It's done with like a rotating room, kind of like what they did with Tina's death in A Nightmare on Elm Street. And it looks flawless. It looks fantastic. The way Cronenberg just shoots this film is great. Wow. Now we're going to talk about the gore. I already mentioned the scene where Goldblum like pulls his fucking fingernails off and squeezes his, the fucking fluid on the mirror, and that's just disgusting. Like I said, still makes me cringe. There's another scene that really makes me cringe. After Goldblum has first merged with the Fly, he still looks normal, but his face is starting to break out, like bad acne. And him and he wants Geena Davis to go in and transport herself. She refuses to do it, so he just goes ape shit and basically tells her to fuck off. And what he does is he goes to a bar, and he wants to pick up this chick. And he says, I'll arm wrestle you, talking to her boyfriend, and bring her home with me. And he's just some big redneck. And it's an arm wrestling scene, and it's, intense. It's going, back and forth, and then suddenly Goldblum just go like this, and you hear a and you see a fucking bone protrude out of the fucking forearm, and it's just so disgusting that makes me cringe as well, just thinking about it. Those are the two scenes that make me cringe in this film. The fingernail pus scene and then the fucking arm break. And it's a wonderful, disgusting practical effect. It works. You get that oh shit moment. Like I said, I praise just the makeup effects from, like I said, he just starts to look like he has bad acne, and then he just metamorphosizes until he becomes like this gigantic fly by the end of it. But I guess this film won an Academy Award for makeup, and it fucking deserves it. But then Cronenberg is good with just making you uncomfortable with the gore. There's a scene I mentioned before when Seth tried the teleportation on a baboon, and the second time it worked. The first time, I don't know, did he try it a second time? I don't remember if he tried it a second time on the baboon. Yes, he did. He did try it a second time on the baboon, because he had two baboons. The first time, it did not work. And you see the baboon disappear, and then, you see the electricity in that second teleportation pod. And then as they get ready to open up the pod door, it's a perfect jump scare. You just see this bloody handprint, hit the fucking inside, hit the window. And they open it up, and the baboon's turned inside out. And this fucking disgusting, twisted special effects, like guts hanging out, and literally skin inside out, and the body's twitching. But that's Cronenberg. Cronenberg, like I said, he's known as a king when it comes to body horror. And another scene, this is just flat out disgusting. I mentioned minor plot spoilers. Geena Davis is pregnant with Seth's baby. And she has this weird fucked up dream where she's giving birth, and Cronenberg's her delivering doctor. Because I guess he likes to make cameos in all of his movies. And she gives birth to this disgusting, gigantic maggot. And you see the mucus and everything, and just the way it twitches. Fucking disgusting, but fucking cool scene. Yeah. And I haven't watched them yet. I watched this really cool documentary. This is like a 2-disc set on the making of The Fly. It's like a 2-hour documentary. And they showed some deleted scenes, and there was a scene where he eventually, Seth has descended. He's descended into madness, and they deleted it because of it would make him less sympathetic. Where he merges his second baboon with like an alley cat, and they become this disgusting creature, and it attacks Seth, and he beats it to death with a pipe. Great special effects there. I mean, it's like I said, there's a deleted scene, so it doesn't really count, but it just shows more of the body horror type of effects that Cronenberg is known for and loves. Yeah, the gore when let's just say when John Getz goes to rescue Geena Davis, because Geena wants to have an abortion, and Seth, near his final form, he's still humanoid, breaks through the window, kidnaps her, and takes her back to his lab, and he's going to merge all three of them, him, her, and the baby, so they can be one perfect creature. John Getz goes to save her, and of course, Seth attacks him. It was shown earlier that Seth, like a fly, can't eat properly. He has to vomit. In a disgusting effect where he pukes in his hand. He has to vomit on his food to break it down into like a liquid form so he can slurp it up. Disgusting. Well, let's just say John Getz is missing some body parts by the end of rescuing Geena Davis in a disgusting scene. You see the melting flesh, you see the sound effects, the sizzle, mixed in with Seth just in full metamorphosis before final fly look, I guess. Just the puke coming out of him. It's really disgusting, but it's really intense because of the score and everything, and what's going to happen to Geena Davis. Is she going to get rescued? And then eventually, like I said, this is a love story, and I won't ruin the ending for you if you've really never seen this. Like I said, please go watch it, and then you'll understand. But I mentioned how this story really is a love story between Geena and Jeff. And that very end, if the end of this movie, following these two characters' relationship through all of this crap, all of this shit, and that end just doesn't tug at your heartstrings, I'm just like, God damn. Such a sad or bittersweet ending. If you want to read between the lines, that's fine. I'm not going to say what happens, but wow. Impacted with the score and some other elements that I won't say. It just knocks it out of the park. So, yeah. David Cronenberg's The Fly. Fantastic film. Likeable characters. Like I said, it's a great love story. In its own simple way. Fantastic special effects. Fantastic practical effects. Fantastic gore. Like I said, it won an Academy Award. Fantastic film all around. Did have a sequel, which I thought is very underrated and underappreciated. I highly recommend The Fly 2 as well, with Eric Stoltz. But yeah, speaking of The Fly, just David Cronenberg, highly, highly recommend that you go and see it, or get yourself a copy. Especially get the 2-disc version, because that documentary is really, really cool. So there you have it. What was I going to say? I don't know. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Share my videos. Tell anybody about my videos. Tell nobody about my videos. What have you. But, and if you like The Fly, if you're interested in The Fly, if you fucking hate The Fly, comment below. I love the interaction between anybody who watches my videos. So that's it. I will say cheers and be afraid. Be very afraid.